the Bellevue City Council meeting for November 20th, 2023. City Clerk, would you please call the roll? Here.
Here.
Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Stokes.
Here.
And Councilmember Zahn.
Here. Councilmember Barksdale, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two commendations tonight, and the first one is for our outgoing city manager, Mr. Brad Miyake. And I'm going to ask each council member to read part of the proclamation, and when we are done, we are going to take time to talk about you. So I believe we start with Councilmember Barksdale.
Whereas City Manager Brad Miyake has provided vital leadership and service to the City of Bellevue for 33 years, including serving as City Manager since 2013, and
whereas after earning a bachelor's degree in business administration at the University of Washington, Brad worked for King County and the U.S. Government Accountability Office, and
whereas Bellevue in 1990, and prior to becoming city manager, served in positions ranging from utilities director to budget manager, and
John?
During his tenure, Bellevue has grown from a suburban bedroom community into a major employment center, retail hub, and tourist destination. The city has worked to implement proactive growth policies, guided the implementation of light rail through Bellevue, improved the city's multimodal transportation system, developed an affordable housing strategy, and fostered a business-friendly reputation, and
whereas Brad played key roles in developing Bellevue's budget process, obtaining the utility department's first professional accreditation, and spearheading efforts to improve city management processes, and
Whereas Brad has been instrumental in Bellevue's focus on customer service through the One City High Performance Organization program. He has been a champion of the city's Diversity Advantage Initiative, which emphasizes equity, access, and inclusion for residents and staff, and
Whereas Brad has served the city and the people of Bellevue with an unwavering commitment, his tireless efforts have fostered a vibrant and inclusive environment for all, and his calm demeanor, caring leadership, and contributions to a positive workplace culture will be dearly missed. Brad's dedication to public service has helped make Bellevue the community that it is today. Now therefore, I, Mayor Lynn Robinson, on behalf of the entire Bellevue City Council, do this 20th day of November in the year 2023, hereby commend Brad Miyake for his leadership, expertise, dedication, and longstanding service to the Bellevue community.
yes.
Thank you, Brad. So I would like to give everybody a chance to speak. And Councilmember Robertson, why don't we start with you and we'll just go down.
sure. Thank you. It's always so hard to say goodbye. You know, Brad, I have been thinking about your service and how much you've always focused on the well-being of the organization, just like you've focused on the well-being of your family. It's so nice to see Gail and your daughters here. You don't know how much your dad has talked about how proud he is of you, how wonderful you are, and how excited he is when you come to visit. He's really centered from his family unit to all of Bellevue and building community, building connections, and making things stronger. As I was thinking about your service, Brad, I thought about the Girl Scout law, because you've kind of lived it. Let me just tell you what it is. I was a former Girl Scout leader for many years. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do. To respect myself and others, to respect authority, use resources wisely, and make the world a better place. And that's what kept echoing through my mind, because all of that is you. And so when I say you're a Girl Scout, that is the highest praise. So you really have, because I was thinking you made Bellevue a better place. You made Bellevue a stronger place. You've been a leader for the council. You've made sure to foster good relations and good policymaking. You've been a leader for the staff. You really bring a culture of together and commitment and trust within the organization. And you've built relationships with the outer community, with the stakeholders, with the constituents, where people really trust what you say. They know that you are working for the best interests of all. And like I said, you've made Bellevue a better place for your service. And I have personally really appreciated your friendship and just how wonderful of a leader you have been for this city, from mentoring new staff, bringing in people, and mentoring council members. So you've been a trusted advisor and a friend, and I just couldn't be prouder to have served with you. And like I said, you're going to be very, very missed, but you have earned a very long and happy retirement with your family.
I'm going to ask that you not laugh during and interrupt during this time of the meeting. I'm giving you a warning.
I had an inclination to say, well, my colleague has said everything wonderfully, and I endorse all of that. You did really put it in real context, and that's really makes me think about all these different things. And so I want to talk about working with Brad and what he's meant to me and what he's meant to us. And coming in here in 2012, when he was still deputy, and things were kind of in some kind of turmoil and sense, and things going on, and changes happening and all that. And Brad and I became friends right away. We like to talk about a lot of different things, and Brad has really, really, really helped me be a good council member, an even better council member, and hopefully a really good one now. And it's all, you had a lot to do with that. And the other thing is, Brad is a friend. And we can talk, I know other people talk with him as well. We can talk to Brad about different things and talk about what we're working on, what we want to do, kind of what the ideas are. And again, that's a good leader and somebody that I will always remember. We will go for coffee from time to time, of course, whenever you're in town. But the other thing I wanted to say is that you, and just watching this from 2012 to now, you have periodically and going steadily forward really put this city in the best place it could be. And that is because you worked with your staff. We get good staff in here. I've never seen a better staff. And you also met the needs by going from one deputy to 4 different people working in these different things that make it work better. And you never refused to sit down and talk about something. So we're going to miss you terribly. But I think you've set things up. And the nice thing about it, when somebody leaves, if they set it up so that things go on as if you weren't here, that's a great, commendation. We will miss you, and we will wish you were here, but you have left it in a very, very good spot, and we'll go forward and own it up from there. So we'll stay friends and appreciate everything you've done, and go out and have a good time. Thank you.
Brad, I've always said a good mark of a good boss is when you're departing, they come back to say goodbye. They come back to say what you've meant to them and in their career. And to see so many staff members that have gone on to other roles in other cities come back here and want to congratulate you and share in your celebration of your retirement says the world, as well as council members, of course, former mayors, et cetera. But I think we can all say here that you are truly respected, truly loved in this community. I don't think I've ever heard a bad word said about you, Brad. I mean, that's how much you mean in this community, and I wish you all the best in your retirement. I will miss hearing about or sharing our cycling stories over the weekend, and who almost bit it on the ice or what have you. And I certainly will miss our conversations, as Councilmember Stokes had mentioned. You are so open and so wise, having been here for so long. You know, your historical knowledge is going to be difficult to replace for sure, but I always enjoyed bouncing ideas off of you, or you educating me on something that happened 15, 20 years ago. I mean, that was just always so beneficial, and just your steady hand on the wheel here at the city is going to be difficult to replace for sure. But I'll miss you. The city will miss you. Residents will miss you. And I certainly hope this is not the last time we see you in these chambers. But if it is, I understand. I hope that you will be traveling somewhere or having fun. And I hope you stay safe on the bike. Thanks, Brad, for everything.
Brad, sorry, I wrote this down. I had so much to say, and I wanted to say it right, so forgive me for reading, but you and I were hired in the same year, 2014, when you were the city's interim city manager, and I got to interview you and to vote you in unanimously for the job. I remember how impressed we all were with your presentation to the council on why you wanted this job so much, and you did not disappoint. You have been an amazing city manager to the city, and not just for the many successes you have ushered in these last 10 years, but for the work that you and I have done together. You're always nice, but you're kind of tough on me the first couple of years. You would always tell me when I had asked way too many annoying questions at the council meetings. You told me when I was being too critical in non-productive ways. You suggested I meet with our top policy staff person at the time, Joyce Nichols, and I became a student of being a good council member. Joyce and I met every Monday to get ready for the council meeting. I got all my questions answered in advance, and because I had a lot of questions, and she helped coach me in how to, productively ask my questions, and also how to develop strong regional relationships with my peers. No one ever told me how to think or what to think, but I got the guidance on how to express my thoughts most productively. And I am so grateful for the support that you gave me throughout that time and throughout the time that you have been a city manager. Jim McEachran texted me last night about you, and here's what he said. Such a gem and such a fearless legacy of care in the team that loves to build up Bellevue as a model of kindness in mission. Over the years, we've learned to appreciate each other's strengths, and yours are way too many to list, but I will mention a few. One, you have an incredible BS meter. You never let the council get far down a path of no return. Two, you have supported the entire council by setting up retreats with staff and professional support that allow council members to effectively represent the community and create value and vision statements that you then hold us accountable to. Three, you have been consistent in your vision of Bellevue and kept us from ever having to backtrack, thus making us more efficient and cost-effective. And four, you have attracted outstanding staff from all over the country and provided us with an excellent interim city manager. Everything that you read good about Bellevue is in large part due to you. Your legacy, I'm gonna cry. Your legacy will continue for years to come. And I'm so grateful for having had the opportunity to work with you.
Well, Brett, yeah. It's difficult to say everything within 3 minutes, but I try to do the best I can. Relationship is built on trust, and the foundation, a solid foundation of a community, of a city, and of family is built on relationship. And it's built on long-time relationship. And I think you've accomplished all that. And with a family, obviously, you know how important it is. Without that, you cannot do what you want to do. And with the city staff, you have built relationships throughout your 32 or 33 years of working at the city of Bellevue. And that's amazing. And they have your trust, you have their trust, and they support you, and vice versa. I think these are all very important, very tangible asset that you possess, and you are able to utilize it. And I've been here for 30 years, so I've known you for 30 years, and I've seen you, how it's successful, how well you run your department, how you serve your community through your colleagues. And obviously, you have risen to the top of what you do. And so it's not much more to say, except you have proven yourself. And especially during the time when I was mayor, we changed our city manager. As a result, we have the fortune and to pick you and work with you. We saw the important asset that you bring, and I think you have again proven it, and you work and see how much growth we have evidence during the last 10, 20, 30 years. And that's an accomplishment nobody can deny. And I think, your family will be very happy that now you can devote more time to them and build even better relationship with the younger family members. That's very important because you're looking for, in the next 30 years, how do you develop your family, your grandkids, and your future to come. And the city also depends on your advice, suggestion. I'm sure we'll not lose it because you're still part of Bellevue after you devoted half your life to the city. So it is indeed, it's a sad day that you're leaving us, but it's a good day that we're going to benefit from what you have done, your experience, and what you've established, like, Deputy Mayor said, your legacy you have provided. And so we hope to work on that and live on that and grow with the young people. Nobody mentioned, really, the city has a great group of young folks. The program that, we are very proud of, Youth Link, Youth Council, and the diversity program, because we're a city of immigrants now. We have been a nation of immigrants, but now the Bellevue is of immigrants. And we value these assets, and based on these, we have to learn how to grow, how to build relationship, and you have set the model for all of us to do that. So thank you, Brett, and thank you, your family. Congratulations.
Okay. Well, Brad, when I think about Bellevue's successes, you make it look so easy. And yet we all know that you have leaned into all the tough stuff that we've had to do. And last week when I was at the National League of Cities, they talked about leaders that draw circles and not lines. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you, I think about how you have so much been a convener of people, drawing us together and not letting us be divided into lines, because you epitomize what it means to love Bellevue, and we really am so grateful for you for that. And you do it with such grace and holding confidences. I know that over the years, it cannot have been easy to work with all the council members and all of our different quirks and foibles and opinions, and yet you've done it with such grace and leading quietly. And when I think about you, I think about a little bit like a duck. You look so calm on the surface, and I can imagine underneath the water, you might just be paddling like crazy to try to keep up with all of the areas that the city needs you to focus on. And so for that, I really thank you. I think you've done so much to help us find common ground so that when policies come before us, they're ready to go, and that we are pointed in the right direction for success, especially during COVID, where when I think back to that time where we weren't even meeting as a council, right? We did not have the hybrid setup already available. So you were leading the city and working on all of the areas that the 1,500 staff need from you. And I really appreciate that as well. When I thought about a quote for you, I thought about this quote from Daniel Pink. It says, "Leadership is about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives." And I feel like when in all of the work that you've done for the city of Bellevue, and really modeling for the region what leadership looks like. You've been the epitome of having empathy for the tough work that we have to do and the tough decisions that we have to make and keeping us together. So I am super excited for you, Brad, that you're going to have time now with Gail and your daughters and your buddy Rudy to do some bike rides together. And I hope that you pick up some new hobbies, come back and visit us sometime, and just enjoy your much-deserved time in retirement. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, as the last one, and after everyone has said quite a bit of what I believe as well. So I will just say, since the time that I started on council, I've appreciated your friendship, which has also come up. I mean, I remember the first meeting we had at El Gacho's, and just how more comfortable I felt joining council after that meeting and just kind of talking about the city and sort of what it was like being, in this space, coming on as a new council member. But I wanted to, I'm surprised no one brought up the Monday calls, because I'm gonna talk about those. Because I think that was, for me, something I look forward to each Monday, actually. I appreciated our conversations during those moments. They weren't just about the agenda, of course, that was part of it. And I always wondered how you kept on top of all the different issues happening in the city during those agenda calls, because it's a deep set of issues happening throughout the city, but you stayed on top of it and relayed those, and I appreciated that expertise and preparation for the meetings. But it was also a time that we had to talk about just life, sharing what was going on during the pandemic, during the social unrest that we were experiencing. I really appreciate it. You sharing that space with me. So, and I know that you have your own history of engaging in social movements in Seattle, and so I appreciated being able to share that with you. In addition to sharing my retirement with you. So, wishing you the best in your retirement, in your family, and hopefully still catch up outside.
Okay, let's do a picture. Or do you want to talk first? Okay, you go ahead, Brad.
Well, Mayor, like, you have to have my notes too, because I probably will maybe lose it. Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Neuenhouse, Councilmember Lee, Councilmember Zahn, Councilmember Robertson, Councilmember Stokes, and Councilmember Barksdale. Thank you for those very kind words. First, I want to thank each one of you, as well as former council members Balducci, Chelmanack, and Wallace, for hiring me and entrusting me to lead and run this city and this awesome organization. Specifically, I'd like to thank you as the council for doing everything possible just to get it right. I don't know that many people know how much time and effort you put into getting it right. The countless hours you spend in meetings with community members, staff briefings, constituents, regional meetings, and then council meetings themselves to prepare to make difficult policy and budget decisions so that Bellevue becomes the place you want to be. And it has become, because a large part to all your policy work that you guys have done. I'd also like to recognize our leadership team, who you've kind of mentioned, a lot of you mentioned that in passing. They are the best, and their commitment for exceptional public service goes, unequaled by anybody. They just are the best. And they do their good work, them and the staff just do great work day in and day out. I also wanted to recognize the city manager's office, who really, held me up and lifted me up during some of those difficult times. Diane, Nathan, Genesee, Joe, Dr. Whitehead, Charmaine, Michelle, and Sarah, and just many others for their unrelenting commitment towards excellence and dedication in serving the council and the community. Finally, I want to recognize my family and behind me, my wife Gail, my daughters Erin and Tara. For all those times I had to take some of those calls, or when I was on vacation, I had to take calls, or I had to come into the office, and for their incredible support and patience in allowing me to live my dream job here. So I leave the city knowing that you have such a solid council now, city manager's office, leadership team, and staff. You are prepared to take on a lot of the issues facing you, as well as to take advantage of the opportunities that will be coming your way. So the best of luck to all of you, and note that I will be cheering you from the sidelines. Thank you.
Okay, let's do our picture. Who's been here tonight and in tribute, support of this tribute to Brad. It's really nice that you're here. Thank you. Okay, we next have another proclamation. This is Small Business Saturday proclamation read by Councilmember Zahn.
There we go. I just had to find it. There we go. Whereas we celebrate our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 650,000 small businesses in Washington, which employ 1.4 million people. And whereas 97% of all firms in Bellevue are small businesses with fewer than 100 employees. And whereas nearly half of small businesses in Washington are women-owned and 15% are minority-owned. And whereas the City of Bellevue supports its small business community by providing free one-on-one business advising, education and networking through Startup 425, and other services. And whereas many city programs are designed to specifically benefit small businesses and community members. And whereas the city collaborates with the Bellevue Downtown Association, Visit Bellevue, the Bellevue Chamber, and many more partners to support our local businesses as they create jobs, boost our local economy, and define our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups and public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving in the U.S. as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore I, on behalf of Lynn Robinson, Mayor of Bellevue, and on behalf of its City Council, do hereby proclaim the 25th day of November 2023 as Small Business Saturday in Bellevue, and urge all community members to support small businesses and merchants that day and throughout the year. Thank you.
Councilmember Zahn. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, City Clerk, do we have anybody signed up for oral communications?
Mayor, this evening there are 5 pre-registered speakers. So before I start calling names, I'll go over a few of the rules that the council has put in place. So oral communications is for a period of no more than 30 minutes, and all topics must relate to City of Bellevue government. Persons speaking to items on tonight's agenda will be called first, and then if time remains, persons speaking to items not on the agenda will be called. presiding officer, the mayor in this case, is authorized to give preference to those who have not spoken to the council in the last 60 days or who will be speaking on a topic that will come before the council within the next 60 days. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak, and only 3 speakers will be allowed to speak to any one side of a particular topic. And with that, I will call our first speaker, who's Jody Alberts, who I believe is joining us virtually. Ms. Alberts, can you hear me?
You can hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Your time begins now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Newenhouse, and council members. This evening, I'm commenting on behalf of the Bellevue Chamber in favor of the proposed development agreement amendment for the Spring District. The DA amendment accomplishes 2 main tasks. First, it extends the terms of the district's existing entitlement so that full build-out of the Catalyst project can be achieved to meet the city and the owner's vision. It also recalibrates the in lieu fee contribution required of future development to align with the city's current needs and priorities while respecting the history of the Catalyst project incentives. We are supportive of both of these changes. We're grateful to see that concerns articulated from the last city council meeting were addressed in this evening's materials. The supplemental materials provide more detail on the public infrastructure investment by the project, as well as the committed to increased in lieu fee amount, with the further benefit that the in lieu fees can be applied to affordable housing at the city's discretion. This opens up a funding source that's not available today. The district is one of the most successful TOD developments in the country, let alone in our region. It exists because of the city's vision more than 15 years ago that an anchor development in Bellevue could spur transformation of the neighborhood from industrial to a mix of uses on a regional light rail line. The district is that vision realized, and it can continue to be a driver of change in Bellevue if the final blocks are allowed to develop as they have always been envisioned. The DA amendment will help ensure this occurs and is in the best interest of the city. Given the rippling benefits that a partnership like this provides, the Chamber hopes that the city will consider utilizing the fee in lieu mechanism to fund affordable housing elsewhere in Bellevue. We support the City Council moving forward with the proposed DA amendment and the LUCA. Thank you very much.
The next speaker on the list is Bill Finkbeiner, who I believe is in person.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Newenhouse, and members of the council. My name's Bill Finkbeiner. I'm here today to testify in favor of the DA amendment for the Spring District. Wright Runstead and its partners took a significant risk a decade ago when they chose to invest in Bellevue, which at the time was really just an industrial area, with only the hope and the idea that light rail was coming. The Spring District, as we know today, is obviously changed the whole neighborhood. And really because of their successful partnership with the city and the city's leadership in recognizing that a catalyst project of the scale needed to transform the neighborhood would require both long-term predictability and incentives. The proposed development agreement amendment is an important extension of the existing framework, which strikes the right balance, I think, between public support coupled with a significant private investment. Given the progress made on the build-out of the district, combined with the current state of the real estate market, an extension of the agreement for 10 years is appropriate, I think. Further, Wright Runstead has made important commitments in the amendment that reflect the city's priority, including agreeing to an increase in the Tier 1 in lieu fees and agreeing to the flexibility in how the city applies those fees so that they can be used for affordable housing. And the city will get those benefits without any reduction in the level of investment by Wright Runstead in public infrastructure, and it seems like kind of a win-win. I've worked in my office for almost 25 years now, and my window looks out at the Spring District, and it's been amazing to see it really grow and change the neighborhood. It really, I believe, has accomplished the goal that the city set out of creating a catalyst. It's changed the neighborhood, and I think has helped bring and usher in a second phase when Wilburton is rezoned, and I appreciate you considering this extension. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Claudia Balducci, who's also in person.
Good evening. I'm really glad I didn't have to go first. I don't know how the setup works down here.
My name is Claudia Balducci. I am a resident of Bellevue, King County Council member, and one of your former colleagues. I'm going to try to speak to two issues tonight. First, I'd like to thank you and speak in support of Resolution 10320 regarding the housing element of the countywide planning policies. Eastside leadership was absolutely essential to making this work happen and be successful. Redmond played a key role, Kirkland played a key role, and Bellevue played a very key role in making these policies come to light. For those who aren't as familiar with what they are, countywide planning policies, it sounds very bureaucratic, but if you think about it, if the comprehensive plan were a board game, the countywide planning policies are the rules that you have to play by when you play the comprehensive planning game. And what these do, in a nutshell, is, as you know, in the past, we have always planned for a certain number of homes and a certain number of jobs, but never planned for how the jobs pay relates to the housing costs. That's just not been part of comprehensive planning until now. This is the first time ever we're going to be doing this, and all of us are. The county will, and all the cities will. So when the state passed House Bill 1220, it required that affordability connection for the first time. And then the State Department of Commerce did a detailed study of what the housing needs were at every level, from homelessness all the way through over 100% of median area income, and gave us that need. But then it was our job to break it out into what each city and each jurisdiction would do. And that was very difficult work over a long period of time. I want to particularly thank Mayor Robinson, who served on the Affordable Housing Committee the entire time we did this work and was a very active member, making proposals towards the end that really helped to get the deal done. I want to thank Deputy Mayor Neuenhaus, who serves on the Growth Management Planning Council, and there was a lot of work done there as well, a lot of good questions and discussion, and here we are now getting ready to ratify these policies and move to comprehensive planning. No one's going to say this is easy, and implementing these policies will not be easy. But I think 10 years from now, if we look back at our housing market, we're going to see that young people will be able to afford to live here, seniors will be able to afford to stay here, and there will be a bend in our housing crisis, and that is going to be down a lot to this work that we're doing here today. So I've used up almost all of my time, but I have to also speak in favor of the commendation for City Manager Brad Miyake. I was one of the lucky council members who got to be on the council when we hired Brad. And just look around at this well-run city, all you and we have accomplished, the amazing people that Brad has hired. I think the legacy that he has brought to the city will live on truly for a long time, and we owe him a debt of gratitude. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Greg Johnson.
Thank you. My name is Greg Johnson. I'm the CEO of Wright Runstead & Company, and you might guess that I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the development agreement amendment that you'll be considering. As we discussed back in August, the impetus for the proposed amendments are to continue the entitlement framework that was set in 2009 for 10 additional years, which will allow us to complete the district's catalyst vision with the development of the remaining 8 of 27 blocks. We've spent the last few months working with the staff to respond to the council's input from the last study session. We've agreed to increase the applicable Tier 1 in lieu fees that are more than double what they are today, and these fees will be able to be applied to the development of affordable housing in line with city priorities. We've also worked with staff to identify and quantify our private investment in public infrastructure and to validate that it far exceeds the council's original expectations. Although our costs will increase with this amendment, we remain committed to the future public infrastructure identified in the district. And finally, we've also worked to clarify the language in the agreement to address some of the council's concerns. So we're asking for your support this evening to move the amendments forward to hearing and adoption before the end of the year. Doing so will allow us to continue our investment and partnership with the city. And looking ahead, we are excited to see how the City Council may further refine the city's vision for Bell Red in the Look Forward initiative, and as a major stakeholder, you can bet that we'll be here at the table with you. Lastly, I also want to extend my sincerest thanks to City Manager Brad Miyake. It's been a pleasure working with him, and his dedication to our project has been steadfast and always provided us good guidance on how to work with the city and its staff. His leadership on this is emblematic of his leadership overall, and he's been an incredible asset to the city. He has certainly left things in good hands with Diane Carlson and the team, city's team, including Matt McFarland and Liz Stead, and I also want to extend our thanks to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is our third and final speaker that will be allowed to speak in support of the study session this evening. And we have 2 additional speakers, and the next is Christian Dorset. Mr. Dorset, I do not see you identified by name online. If you are online, please use the raise hand function to identify yourself. Okay, I do not see a hand. Moving on to the final speaker, Alex Zimmerman.
Sie Heil, adori dem Nazi fascist. Yeah. An anti-Semite. My name is Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak about something what is, I think, absolutely critical. I speak right now to 250,000 people who live in Bellevue, because situation what is we have right now, for many people probably don't understand the situation not only in Bellevue, it's all around America. Last election show right now what is going on here. And for my understanding, and I'm staying in political for all my life, I think I can be qualified like an expert here. 135,000 people never support council what is in this chamber. So for me, this look like a junta. And very interesting, because people who elect these people and exactly re-elect these people.
I'm going to ask you to speak to things that have to do with something that Bellevue City Council has
It's
jurisdiction
exactly
over.
what is important. You please don't interrupt me, because this looks so primitive. You're doing this for many years. You don't sick from this? I am. So situation right now, they look like a junta. Explain to you why. So approximately 10% elect them is a basic of democratic mafia. It's the same percentage.
May I ask the city attorney to verify that this has something to do with the jurisdiction of the Bellevue City Council?
It's unclear what Mr. Zimmerman's speaking about, and if he's speaking in general about the election, that isn't something specific to the City of Bellevue government.
So you're going to have to find a topic that has to do with what we're working on
No,
as a
first stop
council.
in time, because you always use my time.
Well, why don't you stick to the topic that we have
Exactly what
control
is I
over?
want to explain to you, these people, because I'm involved in this election, a part of this election.
We have nothing to do with this election,
It's very
Mr. Zimmerman.
important, and don't interrupt me, because before I will be dead, I will come every Monday, I will speak about this, because people supposed to be understand. There's 150,000 people, 135,000 not support you. You're not legal government. 10% is the same like a German Nazi, is Soviet communist. But you all dangerous and see
Mr. Zimmerman?
Nazi. No, don't interrupt me.
Go
Your
ahead
goal
and
don't give me chance to speak.
talk
Why
about
you
the topic
cut
you
my
wanna-
time? No, you're more dangerous than Nazi or communist. And I explain to you why. Nazi and communists care about
I've
country
given
and
you
people.
4
And you
chances. I'm
hate
gonna ask you to
America
leave,
and
Mr.
American.
Zimmerman.
And stop interrupt
Okay,
me.
you're done.
Why? No, explain to me. No, I understand next week. Explain to me why I did wrong. Attorney, explain to me what is I did wrong. What is I did wrong? You a policeman.
I'll see you next week. Let's go.
No, I will go, no problem. But I want to understand. She asked her about what is I did. Please don't interrupt me.
You can talk about it outside the council chambers, Mr. Zimmerman.
So-
You are now interrupting our meeting.
For many
so
years
you
you're
need to
doing
leave.
this. You interrupt me, don't give me chance to speak. I speak about government, what is we have
Okay, we're
now.
going to take a,
KGB or Gestapo.
ahead and resume because we have a quorum. Clerk, would you like to see if there's anybody else who'd like to speak today?
Thank you, Mayor. That is the end of our pre-registered list. So at this point, I'd ask if there's anyone else who would like to make a comment to the council. Please raise your hand. I do see Dr. Sue Mercer. Ms. Mercer, please come to this table.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just got back from Jamaica again, where my trade school is almost off the ground. Continue to pray that we are able to put our name on a particular piece of property so that we can tell you where the school is. We've started on borrowed property a couple times. Anyway, while I'm gone, you know, I house homeless people. And Wednesday, while I was still in Jamaica, the person staying at my house went crazy, really, literally crazy. And I hope that we have an ordinance that allows people who are around somebody who's having a mental health problem to communicate directly with the caregivers so they have a complete picture of what the symptoms are of the patient. He punched holes in my wall. He was yelling. My neighbor texted my husband because he was out screaming. And I want to thank the police for responding quickly. Actually, the day before, he contacted his caseworker, and she brought a policeman along with her. But by the time my husband and they arrived, he was missing. So I can't tell you what caused any of this, but I don't know whether he is in care or not, because Officer Shaw came on Saturday and documented the destruction. But like I say, I really need to talk to whoever is in charge of his case, and he definitely needs to be off the street. We want to make sure that any money we put into mental health is being properly spent. And the other issue is tiny houses. I know there are a bunch in storage. St. Andrews and Mount Si Lutheran and Sammamish Hills just built one. And we've got schools we've closed. The parking lots could be used for affordable housing. This is temporary housing. I know we've just built all this stuff, but why waste resources that are there? Thank you.
Diane, can we make sure that she is in touch with the police and that they are in communication?
Yes, we can.
All right, thanks.
And Mayor, I do not see any additional hands. I'll turn it back to you at this point.
Okay, thank you. So next we're into a seldom used part of our agenda called Council Business and New Initiatives, and we actually have 2 items today. So Diane, did you want to, I guess maybe I should talk about it, not Diane. Did I get anything on this, or am I just going to go off script here? I can do either. Okay. So the city manager actually changed the date that he was leaving, and we had to change the date that the interim city manager was going to take over the position. And so that affects the salary as well and the benefits of the acting city manager. So let's start with the motion.
Certainly, Mayor. The motion reads as follows. I move to adopt Resolution 10318, designated Diane Carlson to perform the duties of the city manager pursuant to RCW 35A.13.152, i.e. designated acting city manager, effective December 1st, 2023, and establishing the salary and benefits for the acting city manager.
Second.
So are any comments or questions? This is pretty straightforward. It's just a procedural thing to correct a date change in the beginning of your job. Right?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, the next one, I am bringing forward, but I will not make the motion. I'll ask the deputy mayor to make the motion, but it's about requesting support for an independent salary commission. The Bellevue City Council members had a salary increase 6 years ago that they were unable to bring it to the full recommended salary because it was such a jump from what it had been before, because they waited so long to increase the salaries. And even though 6 years ago it was recommended that we revisit our salaries every 2 years, we have not touched them. We have not got cost of living increases. We have not changed the salaries whatsoever. And so I'm recommending that we appoint an independent salary commission to look at the salaries and make a recommendation for council pay. And as former council member, Bellevue City Mayor Balducci said, for the countless hours we put into getting our decisions right, it's much more than just a Monday night meeting. And we are considered part-time at this time, minimum wage. So I would like a motion, please.
Certainly, Mayor. I move to establish a new independent salary commission and direct staff to begin recruitment of commission members in the new year and return to council with any additional actions necessary for the salary commission to perform their duties under Bellevue City Code Chapter 3.60.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions? Okay, Councilmember Zahn. I'm sorry, did you have your hand up? Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Zahn.
Yes, thank you. I do have some questions because this is something that's new since I've been on council in late 2017. I wanted to better understand if we support this motion, are there protocols for how an independent salary commission would conduct their business? And the reason I'm asking is because I believe there's been other city councils where there has been some concern about how salary commissions work, and I would like to make sure that I'm clear about what the process looks like before voting.
Kathy Gurla, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, I can speak to that. So there is a code chapter 3.60 that lays out the process. The commission does end up making the decision. It is not a council decision. There are a couple of criteria that the code requires the salary commission to look at. They have to study the relationship of salaries to the duties of the mayor, the deputy mayor, and council members, and study the costs that are personally incurred by council members in performing your duties. And the code requires them to also study the relationship of your salaries and benefits to those of council members in surrounding cities. So there are some criteria that they are to look at, but other than that, they ultimately make a recommendation as to whether to increase or decrease or do nothing.
Surrounding or comparable cities?
The code says surrounding city jurisdictions and other current market conditions. I forgot that.
Okay, and when they make a recommendation to us, the process says that we vote to agree or disagree, or?
It is an independent salary commission, so they make the decision. It gets filed with the clerk, and that is the decision of, it does not come to the council. There are various methods to set council members' compensation. This is one that the council chose back in 2016 to use, which is an independent salary commission, which means you're not involved in the decision. It is an independent commission. They make the decision. The decision gets filed with the clerk, and then there's 30 days to see if anyone files a referendum petition, and if no one does, then it takes effect.
Okay, so I was responding to you. You used the word recommendation, and that's why I was trying to understand. What are the other pathways that are also possible to establish or review council salaries in addition to this one?
The council, you'd have to repeal, and not use the salary commission, but there you could set your own salaries by ordinance. There's a difference in when those would take effect. So if you set your own salaries by ordinance, they don't take effect until the end of your term. And with the salary commission, they take effect right away because it's an independent commission, so you aren't making your own decision on your salary. There's a constitutional prohibition on midterm salary increases being set by elected officials. So that's why if you set it yourself, it doesn't take effect until the next term.
Okay, so those are the two options, independent salary commission, or we make that choice ourselves. I'm just trying to understand what the options are because this is brand new to me.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Call on Councilmember Stokes next because he was mayor when we did this last time, and then I'll call on you, Councilmember Lee.
Yeah, we had gone a long time at that point, and but it was a fairly straightforward process. I think it's a fair thing to do. It's provided in the law, and obviously it's not a full-time job. Not a full-time job, but it's 6 years is a long time change, and I think it's rational to do this. I think having the independent body is the best way to go, to set something in place so that two 2 or 3 of us on the council would maybe get pay next year and the rest of us maybe 4 years from now is not very healthy in terms of the whole system. And giving it up to a independent group, it has its, pros and cons. They could do something that was a little strange or not, but I think we can trust people that would do this to do a good job, and I'm not concerned about a group of individuals in the community taking a look at this and making a rational decision. But I think it is important because, as much as, of course, we run for these positions and because we want to do it, but it's also a job, and it's very important to have people who are probably, most of us are doing either full-time work or full-time other things as well. And not having some compensation that is rational kind of puts a dent in the sense of timing on working on issues and things. It's just it's not a very rational or I think positive way to set up and have an organization to run. So I'm fully in support of this. I think we can go with an independent commission. They will have criteria that they'll come up with, and I think we can trust a group to get together and make rational decisions and then get it done in a short piece of time and then go forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. I've been on the council for a long time, and we have had, I remember, maybe adjustment twice. And as we have been a city of growing in these last 20, 30 years, well, actually maybe even the last 10, 15 years, things have changed a lot. I agree that, as a smaller city where we are very much a part-time council and our scope of responsibility is just local, and now we are working on regional issues, and that will come very complex, and the work has changed, increased tremendously. And I believe that we need to be appropriately compensated for what we do. So regardless of whether it's independent commission or otherwise, if there are other ways to do it, we need to consider. I don't recall even the last commission we appointed the detail as to what is the process. So I'm glad some of these questions are being asked, because at that time it's probably not as significant. But again, this is a real new day. And in order to do whatever we do, people need to realize what we're doing. And I'm not even sure many citizens really know what we do. People still consider us as part-time. And, and our time is very limited. And we have very wonderful staff, as we already heard from, the city manager's recognition. So we've been very fortunate. We've been performing as such a great city. But regardless, I think city council members has a tremendous increased responsibility. And in order to do it right, in order to meet the future needs, we have to be appropriately recognized and compensated. And I think, more importantly, that's the way to enable us so that the city, citizen, and others, that we ourselves need to know what our responsibilities are. Just like any job we have, you need to know your responsibility and what your job is. And otherwise, how do they come up with a number? So I think we need to have some criteria. We need to have some, as mentioned, we have a co-chapter. So I would like to see what's in the co-chapter. What does it describe for us? What flexibility do we have to find the independent or otherwise commission to really study it, understand what we do, then come up with appropriate compensation package. And so it's important that we know the code and know what various methods there may be. And 2, 3, what our responsibility as understood by us and by the people and by the public, so that we can appropriately be assessed and come up with the right number to do the thing that we are intended to have this commission to do. So That's it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, could you make a motion, please?
Actually, I believe I already have.
Did you?
Made the motion and
Okay.
it's been seconded.
All right, all
Yep.
those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Well, I oppose until we understand what we are going to be looking at.
Okay, that's fine. So 6-1. All right, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the
I
consent
move to
calendar?
approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have one study session item. Diane, do you want to introduce that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. Staff are returning tonight with a revised amendment to the Spring District Development Agreement, and the presentation is based on council's feedback from the August 7th meeting and continued negotiations with Wright Runstead, as you heard in the testimony today. Staff are requesting council direction tonight to prepare the proposed land use code amendment for public hearing and potential adoption, and to prepare the agreement amendment for council consideration both at the December 11th council meeting. So joining at the table are Liz Stead, Land Use Director for Development Services, and Matt McFarland, Assistant City Attorney with the City Attorney's Office. And with that, I will turn it over to Matt.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Carlson, and Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. As Deputy Mayor Carlson mentioned, we are back for the second study session for the proposed Spring District Development Agreement Amendment and Land Use Code Amendment. The first study session was August 7th of this year, if you recall. The direction that we're looking for council after this study session is to prepare the Land Use Code Amendment for public hearing, and council would have the opportunity after that public hearing to adopt the LUCA if it so chooses. And at the same meeting, which would be December 11th, we're also looking for direction to prepare the Development Agreement Amendment for final approval, which would happen after the LUCA public hearing and potential adoption. The agenda tonight, we are going to give a brief background explanation of the current code, where we are in the process. We'll highlight the revisions to the proposed Development Agreement Amendment, which are changes from the August 7th meeting. And in your packet for the attachment that was the Development Agreement Amendment, those changes from the August 7th meeting were the strike draft and red line changes in the Development Agreement. And then we'll briefly talk about the conformance LUCA and the process and next steps. And then Ms. Stead and I will seek direction to potentially bring this back on December 11th. So by way of background, the only land use code provisions that we could potentially be amending for the city are the Catalyst project provisions in the Bell Red sub-area code. That is 2025D-035. That authorizes the Catalyst project in Bell Red, which is the Spring District. There is no other opportunity other than the Spring District for a Catalyst project in Bell Red under current code. It also sets the reduced fee and lieu rate for Tier 1 amenities, which under current code could go to parks and streams or regional transfer of development rights. And there is a special vesting provision in that same code section that allows for extended vesting up to 15 years, which is one of the issues we'll be talking about tonight. In 2009, the city entered into the original development agreement with Wright Runstead, which is attachment A in the agenda packet. And both the code and the development agreement requires over $300,000 per acre of developer-funded infrastructure. That term of art is defined in the code as well. And a fee and lieu rate for Tier 1 amenities is currently $4. I think the code says $3.75 per square foot, but it's at $4 now. And the current development agreement expires on May 3rd, 2027. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Stead for the next few slides.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council. As Matt mentioned, we did want to give you a little bit continued background on the project and also respond to some of the concerns and questions that had been raised in August when we first brought this to your attention. So again, the Spring District is a Catalyst project, the only one that is actually in Bellevue at this point in time. They have developed over 19 parcels at this point, and that is over 750,000 square feet of development. They did start out in a rough economic environment, 2008, 2009. There were not a lot going on back then, so they've done a lot in the time since then. Through that development, they have satisfied all of the terms of the Catalyst project. So all of those criteria, they have put in the minimum open space requirements that were required of the agreement, and also have met their minimum residential yield at the same time. There are still 8 parcels that are to be developed. The Catalyst project infrastructure was split between 3 phases, and this was a question that had come up at our last meeting of what are some of those items that qualify as Catalyst project infrastructure. So we looked at it through the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of the master development plan, some of which have been completed and some of which are still to be completed with this extension. In phase 1, most of the infrastructure was really around the open space and mini park that were created out there, as well as some of the transportation improvements in roads. Phase 2 included the connection plaza to Sound Transit and then also Northeast 14th Terrace. And phase 3 really is kind of rounding things out. So again, some pedestrian and vehicular infrastructure. We have a map that we're going to go to now so I can give you some idea of what these things I'm talking about are. On this next slide, you can see those items in green. Those are the infrastructure that has been created to date. So if you look at Tract C, Tract G, Tract J, I guess it is, those are all park infrastructure. Tract K had also some amenities to the public as well. In the north, on the east, sorry, the east is to the top. You can see that infrastructure across 124th that's being built out is a pedestrian and bicycle connection along there. And if you look to the north side, which is to your left, that would be the phase 3 infrastructure, which is generally to be developed. But you can see there has been a large investment by Wright Runstead in the project so far. Some of the revisions after our last conversation that we worked with Wright Runstead to try and get to and are bringing to you here tonight for your consideration. We wanted to look at that Tier 1 amenity rate. We heard clearly that council wanted us to look at that and see if that was the appropriate amount and discuss that further with Wright Runstead. So in that vein, we did actually look at what today is a $4 per square foot fee in lieu rate and how we could increase that. So the proposal today in front of you would be to increase that fee in lieu rate to 55% of the published value between May 4th, 2027 and May 3rd, 2031. So an additional 5 years after the expiration of the existing development agreement, and then increase it another 5% to 60%, again, of the published rate after May 3rd, 2031. So that rate does change on an annual basis. We do increase it according to the CPI, so you will find that that number is a variable number that we can't really peg right now, not knowing what inflation will look like in the coming years, but we would peg it to that and keep that percentage consistent. It is still a significant reduction. We do know that, and so on, but it's certainly much closer to what the rest of the development community is currently in favor of, is currently being required to pay, and also still recognizes all of the infrastructure that they have put into the project to date and that which will come. So the other item that we looked at was applying fee in lieu payments to affordable housing, and we heard that the council was interested in that as well. So we have continued to maintain that in this agreement. Next slide. One of the things, just a little chart to kind of show through what these changes are. So we have 3 columns there: the current land use code, current development agreement, and the potential amended development agreement that we're coming back with today for your consideration. The extended vesting of master development plan would not be allowed through the current land use code, and currently has 15 years, and they are requesting a 10-year extension to a total of 25 years. The developer-funded catalyst project infrastructure requirement, again, would not be required in the current land use code, but through the current development agreement was required, and that would still be required through the amended development agreement. And again, we were looking to reduce payment of the Tier 1 fee in lieu. Currently, today, it's 17% of the published rate. So the recommendation that we're bringing to you today would bring that up to 55% of the published rate from 2027 to 2031, again, 60% after that. The other option would be the Tier 1 fee in lieu for commercial development to support affordable housing. That would be an option through this development agreement that is not permitted in the rest of the land use code at this point in time. Next slide.
And the conformance LUCA, which is meant to track and true up the development agreement amendments to the code, is required in order to comply with the Local Project Review Act. And it would also include the amendments to 2025 D035, which would include the new fee in lieu rates, the application of the fee in lieu payments to affordable housing, and then the extended vesting period that Wright Runstead has requested. And just by way of reference, if council recalls, when we originally presented this proposed DA amendment at the August 7th council meeting, the fee in lieu rate that we had negotiated was 45% of the published rate, and the current amended DA that's before the council would be the 55% and then the 60%. And we renegotiated that based on the council feedback we got on August 7th as well. So for the council process, as I mentioned, August 7th was the first study session. This is the second study session. If we do get direction from council to move forward, we're on a very tight time frame, but we would publish notice of public hearing on November 22nd, so the day before Thanksgiving, so that we can meet the minimum public notice requirements for the LUCA. And then we would come back with the regular noticing that we provide and for the city council meeting for the proposed LUCA with the agenda materials and also the potential ordinance authorizing execution of the DA as well. So once again, the direction that we are looking for from council tonight is to prepare the LUCA for the public hearing and potential adoption on December 11th. And then also at the same council meeting, we would bring back an ordinance for final approval of the development agreement as well.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to just start off by thanking both staff and people at Wright Runstead for all the negotiating that you did. You made it a lot easier for us when you both come to the table with the same recommendation, and I really appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge the courage that it takes to do a catalyst project, and your courage has been tested, but you so far have an award-winning development there that Bellevue is very proud of. So we want to thank you for that as well. I will be supporting the recommendations here, but I will go ahead and let the deputy mayor go, and we'll just go down the dais.
Okay, thank you so much. Matt, Liz, thank you so much for the great presentation, and thank everyone involved in the negotiation here. As the mayor said, also thanks to Wright Runstead for coming to the table, negotiating, and really kind of coming to the table with the ability to be nimble and talk about our concerns and come up with a path to go forward. You know, this is, like you said, is the only catalyst project, and certainly is a project that we're very proud of as a city. It's such a driver for economic development and housing, et cetera. As I always say, Bellevue attracts ambitious people, and with that, ambitious projects, and this is certainly one of them, and again, one that we're extremely proud of. I'm going to be in favor of this as well, and moving this forward. I hope that we can always, and I know that there's a shot clock here, all right, because we got to get this done before the end of the year. I hope hope we can always be as nimble and as quick to react to other, be it DAs or developer issues or what have you, that comes before this city, this council, this staff, because we, as we've said time and time again, are a business-friendly city. We want to work in partnership with those that want to be successful and ambitious in this city. So, again, it's a great project, and we want to see it come to fruition and to the full vision of this project. And we're not there yet. So, I'm very much in support of moving this forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Stokes.
Well, another one of these times when you've kind of taken all the the good things to say. No, seriously, this is very exciting. This whole project has been, it's been going on a long time, like, coming on in 2012, and after that, we've gone through this a lot, and it's actually amazing how much has been accomplished given all the interruptions we had, two major ones, and 2018, and then, a couple years ago. I think we should move forward with it. I don't have any problem with all putting in directly as it is. And of course, staff can, y'all can kind of work on some of the things around the edges maybe, but I do want to, again, really highlight the work that staff did with Wright Runstead, and working together, you really came up with something that is forward-looking and will really help us continue to develop in a very positive way. And what we really like is not only having the business aspect of this and developing the Spring District going forward, but also looking at other issues like affordable housing and other pieces there. And this is a great complex already, and it's going to be even better for this. I'm all for this. Let's get it done as quick as we can and let Wright Runstead get back to making this thing happen and expand what's the great thing that's been done so far. So thank you.
Councilmember Robertson.
Thank you. I want to check my understanding, if I could, on this. So I know that the proposal is an additional 10-year extension off a 15-year DA. And I just want to, because it's been evolving, and we've only had one meeting on it. So what they get under the DA is an extra 10 years of vesting to the 2009 codes, or what was in effect in 2013. I think it was still the 2009 code. And then they continue to have a reduction, although less of one, on the fee in lieu. Those are seems to be the high points. Couple of questions. So that's right. Yeah, I see you guys nodding. Okay. So we talked about, one of my questions last time was they're vested to the old codes, but we're about to do some major updates to Bell Red. They're going to raise height and density. So I could see that they might want to take one or more of the 8 parcels, and develop it under the new code. If they do that, are they completely outside the DA and don't have any of the benefits of the DA?
Well, the first step would be to address that issue in the new code. Mm-hmm. The Catalyst Project provisions will remain part of the Bell Red Code. And based on your feedback at the last meeting, Councilmember Robertson, and your questions about the DA perhaps allowing cherry picking from the old code and the new code, we tried to make that clear that when you get the DA extension, the effect of that is that you're vested to the codes that are in place at the time of execution of the DA or the extended period. But it's certainly not an issue that is incapable of being revisited, both first with the Bell Red Look Forward work that Council is going to be doing, because this Catalyst Project provisions and regulations will be on the table then as well. And also, I think for this particular Spring District project, we don't have a current last phase 3 development proposal. So I know that you'll know this from your day job. It certainly would be beneficial, I think, both for Wright Runstead and for the city, if we had more specificity about what is being proposed for those last 8 parcels that need to be developed. But I'm quite confident that given the framework that we have right now, but also given the future, the unknown future with respect to the new code and the future development, that we'll continue to be able to work together. As Mr. Johnson said, I'm sure that Wright Runstead will be very active in that Bell Red Code amendment process. And Ms. Stead and I are confident that issue can be addressed later if, in fact, council wants to let them take advantage of the new code when it comes to fruition, too.
Yeah, I would prefer personally that they can pick a lane, but you can't have both, right? You can't drive in the fast lane if you're not, carpool on the left. And if you start out as a carpool, anyway, so that's a bad analogy, but. Okay, because and they may want to use the new code, but then they shouldn't get the benefits of the DA under that, because then they're getting the cherry picking. So that's number one. Number two, I don't know, I was looking at the minutes from August. Did you answer my question about whether the, and I was looking at page 6 of the PowerPoint, whether the whether the infrastructure investments are project level or system level? Are these, yeah, it's this one. Are they system level improvements or are they project level?
I can answer that, and the answer is yes to both.
Some of both, okay.
Yeah, certainly some of them would be required of any project that was going to develop, and we're seeing those same requirements for projects in other areas of Bell Red. So
Okay.
things like the sidewalk or a road, maybe half of a road, sort of thing, those do become just transportation infrastructure requirements. But if you look at an example being the mini park, those tracks, G, J, and K, those would be above and beyond
Those are
anything
system,
that you
okay,
would
system level.
normally see.
So are they getting transportation impact fee credits as well as the reduced fee in lieu under this for the system level improvements?
No, not for the system level improvements.
Okay. Because the system, you would normally get the TIF credit for that.
And we did.
They're getting the fee in lieu instead, the reduced, okay.
and
I
we-
just didn't know if they were getting both.
Councilmember Robertson, we did check with the Development Services project level staff who have been reviewing their MDP and their design review proposals for years to make sure that we were correct on what we presented as the Catalyst project infrastructure as well.
Okay, yeah, okay, I just wanted to make sure, because you should get one type of credit, not both. And I guess that's, no, I guess one final question is this MDP Phase 3 infrastructure, if the DA expires before they do the MDP Phase 3, will they still be required to build these, or are these only requirements because of the DA?
I think that's a really good question, and we can confirm, but I believe that most of these would be required as part of development. So the multi-purpose path frontage, I think, would be the one thing that may not be specific to any one building in a future development pattern.
Yeah, I was trying to grapple with what this public gets out of an extended DA. And if they're having to build all of this anyway, I don't see what the public gets out of the extension. What does the public get out of the extension?
I think part of this is a recognition of what has been put in so far.
Okay.
And their expectation, I know when they went into this, of those costs being amortized across the whole project and those investments, kind of making sense when you're looking at it as a totality. I think that's probably, some of that the public has already gotten, and then some we continue to get. So, for example, the multipurpose path frontage is, I think, going to be a great amenity for the public
I agree.
that we probably would be hard pressed to get through other development regulations.
Okay, so that's kind of the one thing that we really do get. Okay, thank you. You've answered all my questions.
Let's see, Councilmember Zahn.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you taking the extra 3.5 months to work through the questions that we had, and Wright Runstead for coming forward and talking about these changes that are needed, because I remember back in that 2008, 2010, 12 timeframe, and, not very much was moving. And so the fact that we had this catalyst and a developer willing to create this amazing space for us is quite transformational, so I appreciate that. I guess the question I did have, and it sounds like you're gonna check on it for us, is the Phase 3 infrastructure and whether that would actually still be built or not. I just wanted to understand that. I mean, what I believe I hear you saying is that what is in front of us is a calibration of all of the factors in this Catalyst project and making sure that as we move forward, ultimately, we, the city, don't own very much land, and so the ability to actually develop is very much creating the kind of code that enables development to happen with the amenities that are important to us, like affordable rents and park and affordable housing. So I support moving this forward to the public hearing. I would like to understand the question that was asked about, will the Phase 3 infrastructure be one of the required pieces of the Catalyst project? So if those 8 additional parcels are not going to be developed anytime soon, which we hope it will, but we don't know, that getting a better sense for when the timing is for these Phase 3 infrastructure. So, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Barksdale, then Councilmember Lee.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Just curious, I mean, I know from the conversation we had before, I'd asked about accommodating or allowing for incentives for affordable commercial space. And I know we weren't ready to consider that this round in terms of, because we don't have the economic analysis on it. So I was just curious what we have planned moving forward, because I think it's going to be important for Wilburton and the Bell Red look for. So just curious about what the plans are there.
There's some good opportunities both in the Wilburton work ahead and then Bell Red look forward to really test that out and think about what a program might look like for that economic incentive for the small businesses. We currently don't have any of the infrastructure, nor do we have the economic analysis to determine, what's the proper rate, what do you peg it to? But I think we have some really good opportunities, and I would encourage, that as we move those projects forward, we look at that and bring those in, because something I know that we've heard many times from many of the council members, an interest in looking at that. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, and I support moving this forward. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Bell Red land use plan is probably the best plan that's ever been done by any city in the country. It actually had land use, had actually has transportation, had all the various specific purpose use, laid out. And so one thing is the city, we don't run everything. We don't own a lot of the land, so we cannot build it ourselves. And it has to be built by the market force, by developers. And so if we don't have developers like Runsted's willing to spend the money and invest and then develop, it would be a plan sitting on the shelf and gathering dust. So I think what's happening through this Catalyst project is very commendable. And I appreciate the questions Councilmember Robertson brought up, which is legitimate. But I believe that it's proven, what has happened, have we seen in the Bell Red corridor development. The future is yet to come. We only see just the beginning, the piece near Bellevue. The rest of all the way extended to Redmond is still yet to happen. And I think that would depend on, bold developers and who are willing to take the risk and make it work for everybody, because it has to be market-driven. There has to be sustainability. If government builds something and nobody comes, it won't do any good. So it has to be, I believe, requires private enterprise and private venture and private profit incentive. So even though I do share with Councilmember Robertson's sentiment, and I believe that we can work out as we have seen so far. And the staff, I hope represents some of that perspective and working with the developer, and we can make this become a full reality to realize what Bellevue Corridor can do for this region. And so I support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. Would you like to make a motion, Deputy Mayor?
Certainly, Mayor. I move to direct staff to prepare for the proposed land use code amendment for public hearing and potential adoption, and prepare for the development agreement amendment for council consideration at the December 11th council meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you very much. We're going to cover one more item before we take a break. We have 5 different other ordinances, resolutions, and motions. We have one resolution, then we have a group of 3 ordinances and resolutions, and then we have a separate ordinance. So I'd like to just do the first resolution if we could.
Yes, Mayor, this is the resolution to ratify the housing-related amendments to the 2021 King County countywide planning policies. This was last before the council at the September 25th meeting. And tonight, staff will provide a brief presentation of the amendments for your consideration of the proposed resolution. And at the staff table, we have Michael Cotterman, Director, and Tara Johnson, Comprehensive Planning Manager, both from the Community Development Department. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Cotterman.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager Carlson. Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Newenhouse, members of the City Council. As the Deputy City Manager mentioned, we were before you in September with this item, so we have a brief recap of that presentation tonight, and we will be looking for action at the end of that presentation. We are bringing this back to you as direction from the council at that time to bring back a resolution for your consideration on ratification. So with that, I'll have Tara start the presentation.
Great. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. As Michael said, we are coming back to you after the study session at the end of September. I think council had some questions, and so we're going to do a brief recap of kind of the larger big picture issues, scope of the CPP amendments. So as Michael said, we're here this evening to get direction and potential action from City Council on the resolution relating to the amendments to the 2021 King County countywide planning policies. As part of our discussion this evening, we'll start off with just a little bit of conversation or dialogue about how our comprehensive plan update fits into all this regional work. We'll also talk about the scope of some of these CPP amendments, which are very focused on the housing-related changes as a result of House Bill 1220. We'll do a brief recap on some of the council questions and discussion from the September 25th meeting, and then finally conclude with next steps and be responsive here to any questions that council may have. So with that, just wanted to touch on some of the regional framework that's really guiding a lot of these changes. As you are well aware, the State Growth Management Act, which sets requirements for how the state is going to grow. It also includes new requirements under state law and really outlines what needs to go into a jurisdiction, including our comprehensive plan. And then we also have the Puget Sound Regional Council Vision 2050, which covers a 4-county area, and it's the region's growth strategy. The policies within Vision 2050 provide direction on how we come together as a region to make decisions about growth, transportation, and also economic development and sustainability. They also provide guidance on how much growth each county and city within that 4-county area should plan for. And they also provide direction to the county's countywide planning policies. The CPPs, in turn, provide a framework for how growth and growth management planning for all the cities within that county is going to occur. They also align with the policies under Vision 2050, and of course, set growth allocations for each of the cities within that county. The comprehensive plan, and our comprehensive plan specifically, is our vision for how the city is going to grow over the next time period or next planning horizon, which is typically 20 years. It includes a vision which reflects the community's values and also City Council's goals and priorities. So that all formulates the vision. In addition to the vision, the comprehensive plan also includes policy direction on a number of different topics and areas, including land use, transportation. The policies within our comprehensive plan also provide a framework for other plans and programs, for example, like the affordable housing strategy, so it provides direction there. And then the affordable housing strategy in turn includes actions that result in specific initiatives like work that we're doing along Next Right Work, some of the changes that have occurred and will occur with the multifamily tax exemption program. And of course, our comprehensive plan provides direction and policy framework for our land use code, which results in private development and development within the city. So in terms of what we're here tonight to discuss specifically are amendments to the 2021 King County countywide planning policies. And as I said, just briefly, this is a result of some of the changes under the Growth Management Act as a result of House Bill 1220, which really requires jurisdictions to plan for regional affordable housing need. The amendments provide direction to jurisdictions in King County, so Bellevue's part of that work as well, to plan for housing at various area median income levels, so all the way from 0%, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well, right up to 120% area median income. This need also represents jurisdictions demonstrating that we have enough zone capacity as well as we have policies and plans that can accommodate that need. The changes to the countywide planning policies also include a framework for how jurisdictions will be held accountable and how this need is going to be monitored on an ongoing basis, including things like metrics, cities reporting annual production, and then the county will also be producing annual reports on progress towards meeting this need. All of these changes really align with the requirements under House Bill 1220, which also now include a 5-year mid-cycle check-in. So that will be a good opportunity for everyone to evaluate how they're doing with progress on meeting this need. A little bit on specifically what the allocation for Bellevue represents. As you may recall, we went through the process of negotiating growth targets, which were adopted in 2022, and we have a total of 35,000 housing units, 70,000 jobs is Bellevue's growth target for the next planning horizon. So this really calls out what that regional affordable or regional housing need is at the various AMI levels. So as you can see, at the 0 to 30% AMI, that represents a good proportion of our overall growth target, about 50%. And then 25% at the 30 to 50 AMI level, 8% at the 50 to 80. So a substantive amount of our growth target. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Michael to continue on.
Thank you, Tara. So just a brief recap of some of the discussion at the council meeting back in September. We talked about the requirement of the CPPs for the jurisdictions to plan for and accommodate, and those are really key words in this whole effort, and that mirrors what's in the state legislation as well. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means and how we're addressing that through our comprehensive plan. I'm going to talk a little bit in the next slide about some of the current city efforts and how those fit in with the strategies that are also mentioned in the CPPs and how much we're already doing in that regard. And then the comprehensive plan update that includes approaches to increase our housing capacity. As we've talked about with the council before, we're actually looking at capacity, increasing the capacity of the city beyond what our growth targets require in terms of housing as well as jobs. So that gives us some cushion to provide for additional housing at different income levels as well. And then there were also questions about implications of not meeting the CPP need for Bellevue. And I think the CPP's addressed that as well, and I've got some language from that I'll also share with the council. So in terms of the work that's already being done, the council is well aware of all the work that has already come before you and the other work that's going to be coming before you over the next couple of years. Certainly, the progress that's been made on the 2017 Affordable Housing Strategy, the Comprehensive Plan Update, and the Wilburton Vision implementation that are going to add a significant amount of capacity for the city. And we're looking at different ways that we can plan for and accommodate affordable housing citywide, as well as specifically in the Wilburton area, since that's going to see such a significant increase in the capacity there. The council adopted the Housing Stability Program a couple of years ago, and this is an additional funding source that's very important. Bellevue's one of the few cities that has that tool available to it, and we're using that very strategically with the Arch Trust Fund to make sure that we're getting additional affordable housing at those different income levels. The partnerships that we already have and we continue to have with King County Housing Authority and Arch and other jurisdictions, as well as some other nonprofit developers that are doing that type of development. The faith-based property opportunities, the C1 Phase 1 and Phase 2, those are some novel approaches that the city has taken, and we're using those to full advantage. We're getting more interest expressed by different faith-based organizations to utilize their properties to provide additional affordable housing that might not have gone to affordable housing otherwise, but because of the additional incentives that have been built into those code changes, we're seeing more interest and hopefully we'll see some more development as a result of that. And then the Next Right Work initiatives that Tara mentioned, we've done quite a few of those already. There are more still on the way. And we'll be talking about what the additional amendments are that would need to come forward to you in the future. So in getting back to this for just 1 second. In terms of the implications, I think the important language that we talked about with the council in the discussion that you had back in September was around the methodology. And although we were not successful in changing the methodology, I think we were successful as a jurisdiction, and the credit goes to the mayor and the deputy mayor for their work, the respective committees, in getting language into the CPPs that really recognizes that the cities cannot do this on their own. And there's language in here that I want to share with you that talks about housing unit production is one, but not the only means to measure whether a jurisdiction has planned for and accommodated housing needs. There's those words again. Success will primarily be defined by whether a jurisdiction has adopted and implemented policies and plans that, taken together and in light of available resources, can be reasonably expected to support and enable the production or preservation of units needed at each affordability level. Policies in this chapter do not require that jurisdictions act outside of current powers or assume full responsibility for the construction of units required to meet housing needs articulated in Policy H1. So I think that, for me at least, from a planning standpoint, and looking at what the CPPs require, even though we have some significant numbers in terms of the allocation, this lays out what the city's responsibilities are. And we are confident that we can meet the requirement to plan for and accommodate through our comprehensive planning efforts. So just a little bit of background and reminder of how we got to this point. The Affordable Housing Committee review and discussion back in February, November of last year. February through November of last year, it was a long discussion. Then the recommendation that came toward the end of last year, the Growth Management Planning Council approval in March of this year, and then the county council adoption of the countywide planning policy amendments that are before you this evening. So the ratification process, as we've talked about before, is 30% of the jurisdictions representing 70% of the population of King County, which includes the unincorporated area of King County, would need to either vote to ratify, not take any action, which is deemed the same as ratification, or vote to disapprove ratification. And we have done a canvassing of a sampling of cities, particularly on the east side. Most of the cities are not taking action. They're ratifying through non-action, or not taking action and just letting it go through to ratification, I should say. There are a few cities that are taking formal action to ratify. We haven't heard of any that are taking action to not ratify. So with that, again, we're asking for the council this evening to consider the resolution that's in your packet that would ratify the proposed amendments to the countywide planning policies. And with that, Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Great presentation. Any comments or questions on this? I'm going to say that, the premise here is that our city plan for and accommodate housing affordable to all economic segments of the population. And I'm really proud that Bellevue has been such a team player all along the way, accommodating growth. As an urban growth center, I think that's how we is that the description we have? We have met all and are meeting all the obligations of that. And it takes a lot of planning and a lot of looking way into the future, and we're doing a good job of that and incorporating it into our comprehensive plan so that it all makes sense. I am excited at the prospect of having the people who work in our city live in our city. The mall workers, the teachers, the clergy, the first responders, the service workers, and all the way up to our highest paid CEOs, that they can all be a part of the city and the fabric and the diverse fabric of the city is a goal that I personally have. We've done a lot of great work with affordable housing. We're just kind of starting, and we're already seeing good results. We have a lot more work to do, but we are already creating a much more diverse array of affordabilities in our housing stock, and we shall continue to do that, and we need to continue to do that. This is somewhat of a promise, if not a commitment, to try to create 51% of the 35,000 units of housing that we have committed to building at a 0 to 30% AMI level, which is pretty tough. That's a pretty tough feat. And if you add in the 0 to 50% AMI, that's 77% of all the housing that we create in the next 20 years would be at 0 to 50% AMI. Now, fortunately, the deputy mayor and I worked hard to say that this is an effort. We can't be held to this because we don't know that it's even possible. That doesn't mean we're not going to try. We are going to try, but without funding and subsidy to create this kind of housing, it is very tough. But, hopefully as a city, we all partner together that people who work here get the salaries they need to live here, and that we create the housing that gives people choices in how they want to spend their money. And right now, as it currently is, a very high percentage of the people who live here are cost burdened, which means they're paying more than 30% of their monthly income toward housing. And that's not good for a good, high quality of life. It's hard to save. It's hard to handle, when something rainy day disaster happens, you don't have a cushion, a financial cushion. It makes it very hard to live in an expensive city with a high cost of living. So this is a commitment to try really hard with all our policies in the comprehensive plan, with all the affordable housing work that we're doing to create the affordable housing that we need. And for that reason, I will be voting for this. Any other comments or questions? I'll start with, why don't we go with the deputy mayor and then we'll go to Councilmember Stokes.
All right, thank you so much. And appreciate your comments, Mayor. And certainly worked very closely with staff on this process, and the mayor did some outstanding work in this area. And I don't think anyone on this dais doesn't agree that affordable housing and housing in general is one of our, it's a top thing on our legislative agenda, right? It's top of mind for all of us, and it's not just a Bellevue issue; it's a regional issue. But for me personally, it was also a very frustrating process as well. I'm glad that we got that language in there in terms of that this is more aspirational in nature, or this really outlines the needs in our city and in our county. But I also think the fact that, as you mentioned, a lot of municipalities are basically not taking action at all. I think that's very telling. Why is that? Because no matter what we vote on tonight, it's going to happen. So, so that loss of local control, I guess, is a little bit frustrating for me, and it's indicative of how other councils are reacting to this. But certainly, the concerns about the regional affordable housing issues are real. We're addressing it. Thank you so much for those slides about all the work that we are doing and will continue to do in our Next Right work, which is off to a great start. That is all very important work. The big issue here is that 0 to 30% AMI piece, and thank you for including the slide about the enormous allocation that was put on Bellevue for that 0 to 30%. No other municipality even came close to what Bellevue was being asked to do. And when we ran the numbers, Tara, it was something like $9 billion we would have to subsidize in order to create this amount of housing. So that's just, unless someone's got $9 billion hiding behind a building, it's just almost nearly impossible for us to hit that number. So while I'm glad that we got through this process, and certainly that this is top of mind and priority for every municipality, I wish we would have looked or could have, and not personally or myself and the mayor, I just wish that we may have looked at the other methodologies a little bit closer that had a much more equitable approach to them in terms of the amount of housing that every city was being asked to do. But again, I think the mayor is right in terms of the overall approach on this. We're going to do everything that we can. We may not hit these numbers. I know we're not going to hit all these numbers, but we're going to do everything that we can as a city and with our partner, with King County, in terms of hitting as many of these policies that we have now or will have in the future, and making as many accommodations as we can to grow the amount of affordable housing in our city. I share the goal in terms of, people who work, at Bell Square, our first responders, our teachers. Yeah, we all want that. But it's going to take some time too. But we certainly all want that, and we're going to strive to do that each and every day that we're on this council. So I'm voting for this. Again, I'm very proud of the work. I wish it was some of the numbers again were just a little bit more based in reality. But really proud of again, not just the work that we did, but all the cities did, contributing to this, working with the county and the Department of Commerce, et cetera. So happy to move this forward tonight, but also knowing that a lot of these numbers are going to be out of reach for us. But hey, even if we got halfway there, certainly we would have had a big win and created a lot more housing in our city. So thank you so much.
Councilmember Stokes.
Well, I appreciate the comments made so far, and I think, I look at it a little different. I look at it a lot more favorably in terms of what we can do. But even getting halfway there is great, but I think not taking action is not acceptable. And, the reason we call it a strategy, and we still have that, and that's the way I think we approach it. It's not a plan. We do plans. Well, we can hit half this plan. We're doing good. the strategy is how do we get to a number that we come up with or something or to the needs there. And the other factor is we have to keep not saying, well, we're trying to get to a number, so maybe if we hit 75 instead of 80, we're doing great. What we're really trying to do is put people in houses and get people who live in Bellevue able to live in Bellevue and not have to drive 30 miles away to come here and work or live or go to school or whatever, at the university and all. So I would take a little more optimistic view of that we can reach goals, and you can't reach goals if you don't really embrace the goals and work around them. So we're kind of getting to there are different viewpoints on this, but I'm very glad we're doing this. The other cities actually, they will have to take action. They're just not putting a plan or don't, it's kind of an odd thing, but they still have obligations. But what we're doing is saying we have obligations and we really want to go as far as we can. And I'm very proud of that. And I think Bellevue, this is one area where Bellevue can really shine and show people what we can do. We can be the shining city in the sky, but we can also be a city that takes care of our folks. And I think those two things are important and they go together. So I'm ready to go on this. I think it's very good. And we'll work with them, but we're going to stay really focused on what our plans are, what our housing strategies are, what our goals are, and on this. And this just gives us another incentive, gives us another way to look at this, and I think it's a very positive thing for us to do. And I think we need to have this we can do it attitude about this and do the best we can. I'm ready to go for it.
Thank you. Councilmember Robertson? Thank you. The thing that I find so interesting about this is how much this allocation differs from Bellevue's housing needs. We look at our housing needs, and if it reflected Bellevue's housing needs, I would be more supportive. I agree with pretty much everything the mayor said about our goals. We've been working really hard to have more affordable housing. We've put city money into it, which is taxpayer money. We have done partnerships with nonprofits and developers, and we've done incentives, and we have tax exemptions, and we are allowing, we've zoned the faith-based properties to do it. So we are doing a lot. We're over performing on our goals, which I think are going to be raised soon. And I don't want to diminish any of that by my lack of support for this countywide planning policy. I really do strongly believe we need more housing for workers in Bellevue. That is not what this goal is. With 77% being affordable, of all new housing units being dedicated to under 50% AMI, that is not workforce housing. Workforce housing is really the 50 or 60% to 120. If we had 77% at the 60 to 120, I think that would still be a very aggressive goal, but it would be more appropriate. We are a job center, and we need housing for workers. That is not what this does. I think it's very interesting that Bellevue has been assigned the highest allocation on a percentage-wise of the 0 to 30 when we have the most expensive real estate in the region. That is incredibly unrealistic. Even if we took all city-owned property that's not in use and gave it away for development for free, mowed over our parks with housing, we would still not get 0 to 30% without substantial public money. The only way you get the 0 to 30 is if it's 100% government funded. And as Deputy Mayor said, that's a $9 billion proposition. That is just that's not going to happen. That said, I recognize how the CPPs work. I recognize that people are pocket ratifying them, and they are going to be Bellevue's future. I am confident that the staff, the policymakers, and the council will put a comprehensive plan into place that meets the new CPPs. I just really wish that the county wasn't so punitive towards the east side and Bellevue in this, and that they were a lot more realistic in setting goals that are actually achievable. I think about that song that all the, beauty pageant contestants sing about dream the impossible dream. That's what this is, and yet then they're trying to make us all achieve it, and we don't have the funds to do it. So I'm a no vote on this. I recognize it will pass. I recognize it'll pass at this body. I recognize it'll pass at the county, but I just can't support something that is not achievable and sets false expectations and false goals for Bellevue and for the region. I think it is just bad policymaking. I can't support it. Thank you.
Member Robertson, would you forgive me if I clarify something when you talk about the AMI levels and workforce?
I was just sharing my opinion about what I think workforce housing is. So yeah, you can say whatever you want though, Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. So 50% AMI for a single individual Bellevue is about $50,000 a year, which is about $24 an hour. And 40% AMI is about $40,000 a year, or $20 an hour, which is about what our mall workers make. And so a lot of people in Bellevue do earn 40% to 50% AMI, and that.
Under 30 if they're working, not the under 30%
No,
if
but
they're
you
working.
said 50, above 50. So I'm just going to bring that down to 40% AMI, and it's a much bigger scale. But I do understand your point, and I thank you for making it. Yes, Councilmember Barksdale.
Mayor, I guess, so I support moving this forward, the ratification. I think part of the reason it is such an issue at the moment is because we're continually growing, and there will, I think, continually be economic disparity in the city of Bellevue. And so I think if we keep waiting, and to the point that land is really expensive in Bellevue, I think is foundational to the problem that we're talking about here. And so the reason that it's so hard to achieve that goal right now is because if we had done this, taken this step, 10, 15, 20 years ago, the gap would be smaller, right? It might seem more feasible on the surface. And I guess my point here is that at some point, we do have to take action. And I appreciate the step that this takes us toward, which is let's make sure that there is space for 0 to 30, largely 0 to 30% AMI housing in the city. And compared to the affordable housing strategy, where it was looking at tools first and then figuring out the need, saying this is what the need is, it's a growing need, and then let's look at look for tools to make this happen. And I think we tried the other approach, and I think it's time to try this approach. So I support moving this forward.
Councilmember Zahn.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate hearing from my colleagues. I keep thinking about the fact that part of this is aligning what jobs pay and the cost of housing, and that we've been upside down, as Councilmember Barksdale said, for quite a number of years. Whereas tech came in, the price of housing kept going up. We weren't building inventory, and so it became more and more expensive. And we are one of only 2 metropolitan cities in King County, and we know that when we have jobs and housing in proximity to each other, it's better for our transportation infrastructure. And it really gives us that vision for a total economy for Bellevue, where you have kids that can go to the grocery store on the weekend and run into the lunch lady buying groceries. And right now, we don't have that type of housing in our city. And I was also thinking about the fact that Councilmember Lee and I just came back from Atlanta at the National League of Cities, where every city is talking about the fact that we don't have enough housing and not enough affordable housing, and that there is an urgency to do something about it. And what I think about in adopting this countywide planning policy is it really highlights the urgency of the need that we have for investment at those subsidized level of the 0 to 30 or to the 0 to 50%. And the more that we are very visible about the need in our community for the people earning very low income and the housing cost, the more we can do the advocacy and find partners that help us get to this really urgent crisis we have around affordable housing. I'm really glad that our leadership on the Affordable Housing Council and GMPC pushed to make sure that the language in there says that we're planning for and accommodating housing needs based on available resources. So if we do not get more investments, then we're going to continue to try to climb this really steep hill. It also says that we are not acting out of our current powers. So we are not developers. We don't grow money on trees. We can't magically create investment dollars. And so this is one where I think that voting in these policies helps us to express the urgent need we have for housing and investments and subsidies to help get us there. I mean, I appreciate the fact that the last couple of years, we've been talking about our 2017 affordable housing implementation plan, and that those 250 units per year were really what we were able to attain and not necessarily what the needs are. So now we have a much better sense for holistically what our region needs, and we just know that we have a lot of work to do and finding partners and solutions that start to get us closer to the urgent need that we have. So I hear what my colleagues are saying. I just think that we need to confront the reality of the deep need in our communities for affordable housing and at these affordability levels. Thanks.
Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. This is a tremendous challenging dilemma for me. I don't know for the rest of our council members or others. I've lived in Bellevue since '68. When I came here, I made $500 a month as a Boeing engineer. But I couldn't afford to come to live in Bellevue. But my wife works, so we have 2 jobs, and we don't spend all our money. We save, and we're able to save enough money to put a down payment to buy a nice house. As a result, I'm still living in Bellevue because my house has been going up in price, and so on. But the point is, I think it's really, to me, it's a demand and supply situation. Looking at Bellevue history, it's a good problem we have because people want to come to live in Bellevue. Good school, good environment, good public safety. It's good opportunity. And I see a lot of people who come here and they start working. I used to have a gardener, and the gardener owns 2, 3 homes in Bellevue. They've done well, better than I'm doing, but I'm making do. So I understand the problem that we have lots of people that would love to come to here, but we cannot artificially help them, with what level of money that we create. It has to come from the supply side, which is good. I agree with this. That's what the city's doing. But the city cannot provide all the supplies because we don't have all the money to $9 billion to do it all. I think it's coming from a partnership. So I think it's really how do we do that? I really like what Deputy Mayor said. It's aspirational. We all want to do that, no question about it. I want my kids to be able to do it. I want to have my friends that wanted to do it who will value the quality of life, education, and opportunity because that's important. But the reality is we've been, we have to know which comes first, the supply or demand. I hope that by having an aspiration is good, but we need to make sure that we do it in the right way. Not just saying, well, everybody can come and you can just get a handout, and we want to be sure that it comes with many other things that has incentives, opportunities, and education, and we need to satisfy. So it's really the prosperity. We have more people coming to Bellevue. Companies come here. Amazon's coming. It's a good thing. We have employment. But they are the one also bring people here. They're the one that drives the price up. They're the one that drives the retail workers, McDonald's, hamburger, and they're making lots of money. And not lots of money compared to I make. So compared to city council members. So I think it's important to have that perspective. So I agree. We need to have enough housing to supply, to provide for the people who want to come here, who want to live here, who want to make sure that we are able to help to make that possible. So I sympathize with Councilman Robertson's perspective. We need to know which comes first, right? And if we try to do it, just put out in supply, and there's no demand for it, it doesn't work. So we need to make sure that we do have the right goal, right objective. And so I am in a tough bind. I believe that we need to do all the things that our council is thinking of doing. The question I have then is, when the state made the appropriation, allocation, I think this is what Councilman Roberts mentioned, how did they make that decision, determination? I mean, I know they made it. I know that they think this is the fair way.
I think he's talking about the county.
Yeah, about the county, yeah, we have to live with it. 35,000 units.
Oh, that was the state.
Well, so, yeah. So I want to be sure, and I don't know that, and most of the people in the city, residents don't know that. And I don't think that they are not, goodwill. They want to do that. I mean, we're all going to be in a position later on that we need to have more housing supply. Otherwise, we'll be forced to leave and do that. But the key is, I want to invest money now so that I know that when it's time for me, that I can support it. I'm willing to put my money, invest in it, so that I can enjoy what I have for the last 50 years of my life.
Okay.
But the question is, I don't know that. So I'd like to know more of that information. How's the allocation? How is it fairly provided? How does it provide to Bellevue's situation? And the public needs to know that. So I said, we support that, we're behind it, and then I would be happy also at that time to know.
Councilmember Lee is
Thank you.
asking about the Growth Management Act and the allocation of growth, and maybe he's also asking about the counties, the numbers that they have assigned.
Because
I'm
we
just
cannot
going to
achieve it.
interject that
If we cannot achieve it,
someday
just pipe dream.
it would be really helpful for everybody to see a graph that shows the rising cost of housing, the rising cost of education, the rising cost of living versus salaries.
Right.
Because it's a lot different than it was 20 years ago. Anyway, I'll let you answer the question.
Thank you.
So following up, I think the mayor was talking about your question, Councilmember Lee, is really about two things. There's the growth target, which we get from the state through the county. That's an allocation as well that we work on with the county. So there's a certain allocation of growth that goes to each of the counties that the state does. And then the counties determine with the cities how that's allocated out. So that's the growth target. And our target for housing units is 35,000 for the next 20 years, which is the basis of our comprehensive plan update. We're looking at more than that because we know that we're going to need to accommodate additional growth because of the amount of growth that we're getting and the amount of jobs that we're getting. The allocation of the housing need that we're talking about this evening in the countywide planning policies also is a number that comes initially from the state. They look at the need in each of the counties, and then the county again works with the cities through this countywide planning policy process to allocate that need to the different jurisdictions. And they have a methodology that they looked at 3 different methodologies. We preferred a different methodology than the one that was selected. But the methodology that was selected looks at all of the jurisdictions in terms of what their growth amount is, their growth target, and then one of the factors is, what amount of housing exists at those levels currently. So for cities that already have a large amount of housing that's at say the 50% and below, they would have less of an allocation. Bellevue doesn't have as much relative to the amount of housing that we have, so that's one of the reasons I think our allocation was higher. There are other factors involved as well, but that was the methodology that was put together.
It seemed to me that we're being punished for doing the right thing, right? To have people who want to come here to live here. And if you build more and people don't want to go there, it doesn't help anything. People still continue to come to Bellevue. It doesn't help me. I'm going to be pushed out. So I think it's important that the city of Bellevue have to look at what is our growth target. We have never talked about how far the Bellevue should grow. Should we have 70,000 jobs? We haven't talked to the public about that. We have another vision. How far should the Bellevue
Okay,
go?
I'm going to stop you
Yeah,
there.
so that's the point I'm
We
making.
talk about
There's
this
a disconnect.
every 10 years.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, so with that, let's take the vote. Is there a motion on the table?
No.
Okay, let's
Provide
make
the
a motion,
I
yeah.
move to adopt resolution 10320, ratifying the housing-related amendments to the 2021 King County countywide planning policies.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so it passes 5-2. Yeah, thank you for the math. All right, thank you. We're going to take a break till, how about 25 till? If you get back early, we'll start sooner. Okay. We are to the section now where we've got 3 budget items, 2 ordinances, 1 resolution. And I think we'll just let you, do you want to do, what do we decide to do, 1 at a time? I know,
Correct, one at a time.
yeah, we'll do 1 at a time, so. So we'll go ahead and Diane, do you want to go ahead and introduce it?
Well, thank you, Mayor. So there are 4 legislative items, and these are actions necessary to adopt the 2023-2024 mid-biennium budget. The actions include updates to the development services fees, the city's property taxes, and budget appropriations. So staff is going to walk through the actions to implement these changes. And at the table, we have John Risha, Director, and Evan Phillips, City Budget Manager, both from Finance and Asset Management. And with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Risha.
So I think what we'll do is we'll do the 2 ordinances, the resolution. We'll vote on them individually as you present them individually, and then we'll tackle the last ordinance, which is the whole budget. Okay, go ahead.
Glad to go there. Very quickly, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, just to remind you of our calendar of what got us to this place. On the 9th of October, we started actually talking about the calendar for a mid-biennium update for this largely technical update to our biennial budget. On the 16th, we presented the proposed updates to the budget and our forecast for the next year. On the 23rd, we came back with Development Services to discuss their forecast as well as their proposed rates. On the 13th of this month, just a week ago, we had our public hearing and discussed any proposed changes. And here we are tonight with the budget amendment before you. And we're going to tee up with first the revenue related, and Evan Phillips will take it from there.
All right, so as we are going through these items 1 at a time, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, the first ordinance before you is Ordinance 6762. This is for development services fees for 2024. Again, as a reminder, this does exclude the school impact fees. Those passed on consent this evening, so that is not part of this action tonight, but this is for the fees and rates for the City of Bellevue's development services fees. And I pass it back to you.
Would you like us to describe all 3 first and then?
Yes.
Nope, we'll do it 1 at a time. So this is the development services fees for full capture of costs incurred, something that we agreed to do, and now it's before us. Any comments or questions? May I have a motion, please?
Certainly, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance 6762 regarding development services under the Bellevue City Code, fees for applications requiring construction, land use, fire, survey, sign, transportation, utility, and clearing and grading review and inspection services.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now on to ordinance 6763.
All right, for the next 2 actions, these are related to the property tax. The first action of that group is ordinance 6763 3. This is establishing the property tax for 2024. This is establishing the levy and rate. Again, as a reminder, this is part of the policy action that was adopted as part of the 23-24 budget, which included a 2% increase property tax adjustment for 2023, as well as a 1% councilmanic adjustment for 2024. So this would enact the policy that council had already adopted as part of the 23-24 budget.
Exactly, Evan, thank you. Okay, any comments or questions on that? Yes, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. As most people know, including my colleagues, that I always voted against the property tax increase for the reason that it's not specific to any particular priority that we spend our money on. So I would not support the establishment of the property tax 1% increase adjustment.
Is there a
But,
motion?
yeah.
Yes, I move to adopt ordinance 6763, establishing the amount of property tax to be levied for the year 2024, the second year of the City of Bellevue's 23-24 fiscal biennium.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, and now on to Resolution 10319.
All right, the second action that follows ordinance 6763 is resolution 10319, and this provides for the bank capacity to be reserved. This is for when the city of Bellevue has historically not taken the 1% property tax adjustment. This preserves that banked capacity in the amount of roughly $8.2 million as a set aside. This is just a formality to make sure that the city of Bellevue confirms that reserving of funds.
Okay, and any comments or questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Sorry, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 10319, providing for the banking of levy capacity pursuant to RCW 84.55.005, 84.55.0101, and 84.55.092.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and on to the last ordinance.
All right, final action for this mid-biennium budget update is what we call our umbrella ordinance. This is ordinance 6764, which adopts the 23-24 appropriation by fund, our pay plans, as well as covering grants and donations that are less than $350,000. As a reminder, this umbrella ordinance covers updated revenues, technical adjustments mostly related to personnel matters, biennium funding for the Keep Bellevue Beautiful program, affordable housing and permit fee reduction projects, hotel motel revenue from our tourism promotion area, as well as the item that we discussed last week, which is the $1.65 million for one-time maintaining transportation maintenance projects for 2024. So that is, these materials do reflect that adjustment that was made last week by council's direction.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Not seeing any, may I have a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 6764, adopting the modification of the 2023-2024 biennium budget and the 2023-2029 capital investment program plan, as both have been previously amended, setting forth and the estimated revenues and appropriations and establishing job classifications and pay ranges. Sorry.
Second.
And establishing.
Establishing an effective date.
Yep. Oh,
Second.
Just the last part of the motion is and establishing an effective date.
okay. I don't have that as part of the motion.
Go ahead and write.
And establishing an effective date.
Okay, good.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Job well done. Okay, we have a written report. We're not going to have a presentation or discussion, but it is well worth reading. It's our Intergovernmental Affairs Monthly Update, and I encourage you to read it. We do not have a meeting next week on the 28th, so we will be back here on December 4th. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.